What do you do when the person you trust most drops a secret that shatters your world? Mark stood frozen in the kitchen, the hum of the fridge the only sound louder than his racing heart. His wife, Emily, sat across from him, her hands clasped tightly on the table, her eyes brimming with tears. Just moments ago, she'd whispered those words, "I'm pregnant." The joy he should have felt was strangled by a bitter truth they hadn't been intimate in over a month. His mind screamed for an explanation, but deep down, he dreaded what it might be. They'd been married for 7 years. Their love that once burned fiercely, now flickering like a candle in the wind. Work had consumed Mark, his late nights at the law firm piling stress on both of them. Emily, a freelance illustrator, had grown quieter over the months, her laughter replaced by long silences. He'd assumed it was struggling with a creative block or the weight of their unspoken dreams of starting a family. But this was something else entirely. Emily's voice trembled as she spoke again. "Mark, I need to tell you something. Please just listen." Her words hung heavy, like storm clouds ready to burst. He nodded, his throat tight, bracing for the truth. She confessed it all in a rush, her voice cracking with guilt. A month ago, after another night of Mark working late, she'd gone to a gallery opening to network. Drinks flowed, and in a moment of loneliness, she'd crossed a line with a strange-ran artist named Leo. It was a fleeting mistake, she swore, a one-time lapse she'd regretted instantly. But now, the consequence was undeniable. Mark's world tilted. Betrayal clawed at his chest, but beneath it, a strange numbness spread. He wanted to yell, to demand why, but the sight of Emily's tear-streaked face held him back. She looked so small, so broken. "I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. "I was terrified of losing you." He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "I need air," he muttered, grabbing his coat and stepping into the rainy night. The city blurred around him, neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. His mind replayed their life, together their wedding day. The way Emily's eyes sparkled when she laughed, the quiet mornings they'd spent dreaming of a child. How had they drifted so far apart? As he wandered, a memory surfaced. 2 years ago, they'd faced a different kind of pain. Emily had suffered miscarriage, their first attempt at starting a family. The loss had gutted them both, but Mark had buried his grief in work, leaving Emily to carry hers alone. Had that been the start of their unraveling? Guilt gnawed at him, mingling with his anger. He found himself outside a small diner, its warm glow inviting. Inside, he ordered coffee and sat in a corner booth, staring into the black liquid. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "You look like you're carrying the world, son." Mark glanced up to see an older man, maybe in his 60s, with kind eyes and a weathered face. He introduced himself as Carl, a retired teacher who frequented the diner. Something about Carl's gentle demeanor made Mark open up, the words spilling out Emily's confession, the pregnancy, the betrayal. Carl listened quietly, nodding. When Mark finished, Carl leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "Life's messy, ain't it? My wife, Clara, had an affair once years ago. Broke my heart. But you know what? We worked through it. Took time, tears, and a whole lot of honesty, but we came out stronger." Mark frowned. "How do you forgive something like that?" Carl smiled faintly. "You don't start with forgiveness. You start with deciding if the love's still worth fighting for. That baby she's carrying, it's not just hers. It's a life, a chance to build something new, even if it's not what you planned." The words hit Mark like a punch. He'd been so consumed by his pain that he hadn't thought about the child. A life, innocent and untainted by their mistakes. Could he raise it? Could he love it? Carl slid a napkin across the table, scribbled with a phone number. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. But go home, son. Face it head on." Mark thanked him and left, the rain lighter now. As he walked, Carl's words echoed. He thought of Emily, alone in their apartment, probably terrified of what he'd say. He thought of the child, a tiny heartbeat caught in their storm. When he stepped back into the apartment, Emily was still at the table, her face pale. She stood, her voice barely a whisper. "Mark, I'll understand if you want me to leave." He looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman he'd vowed to love through sickness and health. The betrayal still burned, but beneath it, he felt something else, hope, fragile but stubborn. "I'm not saying it's okay," he said, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "And I'm not saying I know how we'll get through this. But I don't want you to leave. We made vows, Emily. We're going to figure this out together." Her sob broke the silence, and she stepped toward him, hesitant. He opened his arms, and she fell into them, her tears soaking his shirt. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. The days that followed were raw and messy. They really talked for the first time in months. Emily shared her loneliness, how the miscarriage had left her feeling hollow, how she'd craved connection. Mark admitted his own failures, how he'd let work become his escape. They cried, argued, and slowly began to rebuild. One evening, Emily showed him an ultrasound photo, a tiny shape barely visible. "It's real, Mark," she said softly. "This baby's coming, whether we're ready or not." He stared at the image, his heart twisting. Carl's words came back, a chance to build something new. "What if we name it Hope?" he suggested, his voice thick. Emily's eyes widened, then softened. "Hope," she repeated. "I like that." Their journey wasn't over. Trust would take time, and scars would linger. But as Mark held Emily's hand, he felt a flicker of the love that had once defined them. The child hope won't erase their pain, but it could be a bridge, a reason to keep fighting. In the quiet of their apartment, with rain tapping the windows, Mark realized something. Love wasn't just the easy moments. It was choosing to stay, even when the truth hurt. It was facing the mess together, one step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.